Well, we talked about the great popular love for Ricky Hatton, and very similar case with Frank Bruno in 2003 when he went to be treated for depression as well. Now, Bruno spoke last year to Barry McGuigan about how the end of his career, coupled with his divorce, sent him spiralling.
I stopped training for a year, and they sectioned me. The police come to section me, because I think once you stop something, the tension builds up. You get a little bit of aggressive and whatever. But I love training. I was meeting you this morning. I got up about 6 o'clock this morning. I was here about 8:30, 8:45, and I was just relaxing and looking after myself. So that's the only thing I got. Is now my kids have gone, but I still see them. Yeah. But my part of the day is getting up and just going for a nice run, putting the hat on, getting a good sweat on, going and doing the weights and on the bike. I don't do it because I have to do it. I do it because I love doing it.
Yeah. What actually caused that? Was it just the training, or was it were a number of problems there in all coming together?
When I finish, sometimes when you got someone you love and you break up and you got the kids or whatever, I put all my body and soul into my kids. I put all my body and soul into my wife, and then you hear that, you know what I mean, I can't even talk about the thing because for legal reasons, but when you're close to, because I know it's not a nice thing when you hear that you're getting divorced and someone wants you at your house and etc., and it just all came up on top of me, and you know what I mean, I just couldn't handle it. Then they sectioned me, and thank God they sectioned me, and they sectioned me for a month. But when I got in the hospital, I knew from when I got in there, man, that I don't want to be in this place for too long, but I'd stay in there 28 days and take the punishment.
You needed it. You needed it, and it just needed to get your head right.
Yeah, it was getting very, very pressure, but I'm not putting no blame on nobody else but myself, but I ain't going there again. That's why I use my left hand and my right hand. It's cheaper. There was no pressure, you know?
Yeah. I think that the training in boxing, did that help you?
110%, Barry. Sometimes when you train for a fight, you go through all turmoil and you're getting nervous and you're shutting away and you don't want to talk to nobody. It's nice the conditioning, what you can get for that. If you can take that conditioning into life, what you do, not put it exactly, you know what I mean, getting up to the weight, but you've got to just keep yourself on the move and keep yourself occupied, you know what I mean? And just look after yourself. And the boxing trainers helped me so much, I can't put it into words. You look at some people, they've let themselves go, but it's important, everything you do in life to maintain that sort of like fitness. It's like a massage for the brain, it's like a massage for the body. It's just like balances you, and just to focus in what you got to do. Sometimes if you don't train, you get all cloudy and very confused. When you're trained and you come out in the sweat and you can think a lot more clear, you're driving your car and and it pumps yourself up to go and do whatever you need to face.
That's basically your solace. That's where you get your, as we say in Ireland, you get a head shower. You can sort of ruminate, you can clear your head.
Some people go to church, some people will go to a shrink and sit down and talk to one and talk about their problems and unload, and then the shrink will bounce back to them. But I love going to the gym. I love looking after myself. I love, you know what I mean, putting on your suit or putting on your jeans, putting your tracksuit and feeling good. And I don't think that's a crime. You know what I mean? That's the right sort of way to look after yourself, you know? I'm not Mother Teresa's son, but I do look after myself, you know what I mean?
Well, that, of course, was Frank Bruno. Didn't even have to tell you that, did I? Richie, I mean, he talks there about how he keeps training. You know, he's in the gym, he's working hard. But how hard is it to train hard when there's no fight at the end of it?
That's the problem. That is the big problem, believe you me. I got to a stage when I retired, as I said, I didn't go into the gym for a year. Then when I did eventually go back into the gym, I went back into the gym because my stomach started to get fat. So I was thinking to myself, I've got to train to keep my weight down. Now, I've never had that problem all my life because I've always been a naturally fit kid. I was a great, good cross-country runner at school, and I've always boxed since I was a 7-year-old boy. So I've always been a skinny kid, and I've never had any problems with my weight. So then when I retired and never went to the gym for a year, when I eventually went back, I went back because I started to get fat. And then having to train, and believe you me, I do a bit of training now, and I still train it pretty hard. I did 10 rounds this week on the bag just to keep my weight down. But when you have to train, when you first come back into training after boxing and there's no goal at the end of it, I mean, crumbs, it was really, really difficult to stay focused, because all my life I've trained for fights and there's always been a goal there to aim at. Now there's no goal apart from your stomach. Believe you me, it was difficult.
Well, fight people just, they gravitate towards gyms. At the Peacock Gym in London's Silvertown or Canning Town, it's it's been around about sort of 20 odd years now, or 18 years, and it's a proper professional boxing gym. They do a bit of mixed martial arts and some weightlifting. If you go to the Peacock Gym any time in the daytime, you'll probably find upwards maybe 20 or 30 pros between the ages of about 35 and 50. They might be helping someone, a mixed martial artist, throw a punch, or they might be doing some white collar training, or more than likely they'll just be milling around, standing around in the gym, and they'll be in different sorts of shapes. Some of them will be super fit, some of them will be a bit over the top, but they will just congregate there. And if there was ever a little window on how hard it is to deal with finishing, with life after boxing, not for the glamorous end like Richie, because he is still world champion, and Ricky, but just the sort of normal end. You go to a gym like the Peacock and you see that's where they are. They're with each other. They're with friends.
I mean, but in a way, I suppose when the three of us retire from broadcasting, which we eventually will, we'll probably all still go to the pub and see each other and talk about our glorious not boxing days, our glorious broadcasting days.
Yeah, and I think some of those people that you mentioned, Steve, maybe can start to at least try to prepare for those days after boxing, whereas the likes of Ricky Hatton and Joe Calzaghe and those huge nights, sometimes the end comes almost by surprise. I mean, Ricky Hatton going into that fight against Manny Pacquiao, I sensed in the week building up, through him and the people around him, they actually didn't really believe he could win that fight. Not by that stage. They might have done at the start of the training camp. But then at the end of it, I think they still reasoned that, okay, we'll go into this fight. If we lose against the pound for pound number 1 stroke 2 in the world, then there's still plenty to aim at afterwards. But with that defeat, it was so devastating, it was so clinical, so conclusive, that there wasn't really, if he thought strictly and straight to himself, there wasn't a way back after that, and that's, I think, one of the reasons he's been so depressed.
And it was a shattering end under no circumstances. Ricky could see himself losing on points, he could see himself getting cut. He could not under any circumstances, Ellie, imagine that am I right, Richie, that he would have got knocked out. Yeah. He would have bet his house on not getting knocked out and not being left unconscious on the floor for a couple of minutes.
So 2 more questions before we go.
Sure.
Can he come back? Mike, what do you think?
I think he can, but what he's got to find somehow now is the sense of pride that got him to where he was as a fighter. Now, I went to his gym that he's had built on the corner of Hyde, where he was born and raised for much of his life. And he's got posters all around the main gym there, where his fighters now from Hatton Promotions, a lot of them work out. And if you look at the poster up there for the night he made his professional debut, he's not even on it.
Yeah.
And he was what they call a swing fight. So he went along there with the possibility of not boxing at all. He was a swing for TV purposes. If one fight went early and they needed something to fill in before the main televised part of the bill, he was that swing floater fight. And so that's where he's come from. He's got to somehow now find that kind of energy and that kind of pride within himself as a man and a fighter to get through this.
Yeah, he can come back, but there needs to be a little less denial, some raw honesty, and if he gets to some brutal AA meetings and listens, and he will realise, and he needs to, that there is not only one Ricky Hatton.
And I think Steve as well, I think he can come back, because world champion boxers are exceptional people. They're exceptional people physically and they're exceptional people mentally. In the ring, they've got extreme mental strength, and he's got to show that mental strength now, because this could be the toughest fight of his life, and my money's on Ricky Hatton to bounce back.
But just a word of caution, Richie, he has been a man of extremes. If you look at him in training, out of training, a man of extremes, even in the lengths he was prepared to go to in the ring. And that's just the question mark I have, is where is he going to find the extreme outside the ring? Maybe that's what we saw in that film in the newspaper at the weekend.
And the film, as you say, at the weekend, and the publicity that it's had all week, what will that do to the legacy of Ricky Hatton?
I think he can survive that too. I really do, because boxing fans, sports fans, tend to separate the personality from, in this case, the boxer. You know, my favourite of all time is Sugar Ray Leonard. He had his problems, very similar problems, in the mid-1980s. It hasn't, I have to say, for right or wrong, affected my reflections of Sugar Ray Leonard. It hasn't affected his status in my mind as the number one of all time.
Yeah, and what we need to point out here, I know it's very late, he's not a drug addict, he's an alcoholic. That's the problem. He's an alcoholic first and foremost.
Addictive personality.
Simple as that.
Final word to you, Richie. Has his legacy been damaged too much?
I hope not, and hand on heart, I think he will come back, but I do believe it will all come down to the press at the end of the day. They could make or break him.
Richie, thank you so much. Richie Woodhall, Steve Bunce and Mike Costello, as always, fascinating hour.